Angela Webb, Senior Gold Ambassador here to recap Chapter 9 of the Secret Code of Success. And, nothing in life is a coincidence. I totally believe that. Everything is divine and it happens as it should. And me signing up to recap this chapter, is totally divine. It totally spoke to me. I mean, the whole book has been amazing, but this particular chapter, Finding Your No, it was absolutely, I believe it was absolutely meant for me to recap this because so many things about this chapter jumped out at me, excuse me. So let's go ahead and jump in. So starting with just finding your no and breaking it down to finding your personal no, finding your interpersonal no, and finding your global no. And so, where he talks on page 179 about exercising your personal no, thinking about the time, the money, the energy draining activities that, take away from your success. Figuring out why you do them and what it's costing you. Better using your resources, time, money, and energy, and then actions you can take to reallocate your resources to get what you really want. And so he talked about procrastination, and that is so huge for me, y'all. I have a lot on my plate, as we all do. I have 3 kids and a husband, and I work full time and have all kinds of things happening in between there. Leading a life group, just running a business, hello, Plexus, all of it. And so I know that I am a huge procrastinator. And I know that procrastination is preventing me from getting what I want and getting to the place that I want to in my business. It says, we stop ourselves from success because we're afraid to get out of our familiar zone. And that resonates with me so much. It's easy. I have a great job, I have a great career. I've been with the same company for 11 years. I know this job like the back of my hand. I don't have to work hard at it anymore. And what's happening, though, is that in the back of my mind, I am procrastinating on getting to the place where I'm working hard and I'm working consistently and I'm making huge sacrifices with my Plexus business because I have this comfortable, great paying job that I'm used to. It's my familiar zone. And so that literally jumped off the page and smacked me in the face. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. But you know what it's costing me? It's costing me time freedom. Because while I do have flexibility in my job, I can't just, as an example, and I think I shared this before on another book chapter recap that I did before. Not on this book, another book. But there was a deal that came through. I subscribed to Travelzoo, and they do like a weekly top 20 vacation deals every week. And there was a deal for $799 or something per person to Paris and Rome for 7 days, 9 days, something like that. That is something, and now mind you, it was that cost because it's like flying out on January 18th or some random day in January. But you know what? I have to go to work. And while if I was running a successful Plexus business, meaning, I was Emerald, Sapphire, Diamond, I would still be working. I would still be running my business because it is my business. I have the flexibility. I don't have to check in with anyone. So if I wanted to go to Europe or Paris and Rome for 7 days, I could do it. But because I choose to stay in my familiar zone with my 9 to 5, I can't do those things. And like I said, that just jumped off the page and smacked me in the face. So then on page 181, where he talked about using what you have correctly, he says, hey, I think I'll spend myself over here when he was talking about money and credit cards. You are the one taking out that credit card. You're the one taking out that cash. Money can't think for itself. You're the thinker. So now I'm about to get really raw with y'all because I am the master at putting together a debt spreadsheet or a budget spreadsheet with, color coding and what's coming out when and, setting up my automatic bill pay, all of that. I mean, I'm a master, but I am a squirrel, y'all. Squirrel. There's a sale. Squirrel. I'm going to get this new shirt. There's a Amazon Black Friday sale. Squirrel. I'm over here buying, an Ancestry DNA kit. I'm all over the place, but y'all, I have debt. It's not a lot of debt, but it's debt that I'm chipping away little by little instead of in big chunks like I would be able to if I wasn't squirreling all over the place and not using the money that the Lord is essentially blessed me with correctly. And so again, jumped off the page and slapped me in the face. So that's actually one of my takeaways from this chapter, which I'll recap at the end. We talked about getting with people who are wealthy and manage their money well. The first person I thought of, I know actually a couple of people that manage their money pretty well and are building wealth as a result of it. But there's a vice president that I support at work. I'm in human resources, if you didn't know. And so his wife, she is a, homemaker, and they have 3 kids. And this man drives an old minivan. He kind of goes back and forth between an old minivan and an old F-150. But in talking with him and working with him for so many years, I know that he owns a couple of other homes. He has a boat. He has, his daughter's college is paid for. He is building wealth. You know why? Because he's not squirreling every 5 minutes every time there's a sale on something. He's investing. He's made wise choices with his resources. He doesn't have to, roll around in an expensive luxury vehicle. His minivan is getting him from A to B, point A to point B just fine. And so it's so important that when we're not responsible, or we struggle with using our resources, correctly or responsibly, that we get with someone who can help us with that and kind of hold us accountable. And then going over to reallocating your resources. I don't think I had any highlights there. So then finding your personal no. So he says, one thing I've taught thousands of people in my seminars is to use the 3-step detect, deflect, and reflect method to find your interpersonal no. This is on page 183. So he says, Ben Franklin said, there are many roads to success, but only one sure road to failure, and that is to try to please everyone else. And then it says, the richer and more successful you get, the more demands are placed upon you. So you can't truly be happy and rich without being able to say no. Huge. So then, kind of breaking down those 3 steps, starting with detect. So, when someone is coming at you and they're getting ready to ask you a question, and sometimes we're just completely thrown off guard. We don't need to be. We know what they're coming to do. We may not know what they are going to ask, but we know that they need something from us, right? And so it's being able to detect when that person is coming at you, kind of like an arrow, as it says on page 185. And then deflecting, so that means simply asking questions. I think so often we get a request and without even asking any questions or even considering our own bandwidth or what we have going on, or does it even make sense, in the season of our life to take on whatever the request is, we just say yes. We don't even think about it. And so deflecting means asking questions, like I said. What exactly do you mean by that? Tell me more about that. Why do you want that? Help me understand what you're looking for. And so what that does is it helps you. It's kind of like, in the chapter here, page 185, it says, it may seem like you're asking dumb questions, but really you're protecting yourself so that you really understand what's being asked of you and if you can take it on. And then the last step is reflecting. And that's when you send the arrow right back to them and synergize. You get beneath their request and find what's really going on, basically what they're really asking of you. And then you might say, I would love to do what you're asking, but I'm not going to be able to give it the attention that it deserves. So I'm going to have to decline right now. And then it says, when you say no in a way that protects the other person's pride, when you say no in a way that protects the other person's pride, but also protects your time, you also protect the relationship. Because y'all, how often do we take something on and it's too much for us, and then we get mad at the other person for even asking us, or we start to resent them because we don't know how to manage our time, we don't know how to say no. And so that reminds me of one of my line sisters just got married, and another one of my line sisters was in the wedding, and she has a new baby, and she just has a lot going on. And it just wasn't a good time for her to be in the wedding. And instead of saying, no, I would love to support you, I'll support you from the sidelines, but I can't commit to being in this wedding right now. So as a result, she's sort of, for different reasons, different things that happened throughout the process, she started to kind of get resentful and, frustrated behind the whole thing. But it didn't have anything to do with my line sister that got married. The other person just should have said, this isn't a good time for me right now, and I can still support you, but I can't be in the wedding. That's what I thought of. That's the first thing I thought of when I read that section. So it says, the point, however, on page 186, is when you find your no, you might also find that you can begin the transition from doing things that empty your tank to more of the things that fill your tank. That is so huge. For me, I think we spend, not just me, but for so many of us, we spend so much of our time on things that drain us, that deplete us. But when we find our no, when we find the strength and the courage to say no and to protect our own kind of bandwidth in life and our day and all that stuff, then we are able to then replace that with things that we love and the things that fill our tank. So then I'm going to skip a little bit ahead because I'm going over. I had a time limit that I was supposed to stay under. So then going over to finding your global no. So, that just breaks down to, asking yourself a few questions. But before you get there, it's acting with integrity, page 188, and saying no's. And coming from a place of I have instead of a place of lack, like, oh, woe is me. The reason why, this is happening is because of this, or, kind of speaking life essentially is what that section is talking about, versus whatever you put out into the atmosphere, whatever you think about yourself or say about yourself will come to fruition. So if you speak life, then those things will happen for you as well. So, in the exercise on page 190, finding your global no, those questions that I mentioned before. Number 1, what are my why to's of acting with integrity? Number 2, what will I gain if I act with integrity and purpose? Number 3, what will I lose if I act with integrity and purpose? And number 4, people I admire and why? And so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. And so the very last, there's a recap, of course, on page 192, but on page 193, in terms of next steps, it asks you to list 3 things you can do from this chapter in the next 7 days to find your no for greater peace of mind and satisfaction in your life and business. So what I put is, to spend some time answering the global no exercise questions. Number 2, committing the detect, deflect, and reflect it to memory. And then number 3, recommitting to a budget and debt plan and getting an accountability partner on that. That's going to be huge for me. So that's my recap of chapter 9. I'm sorry I had to really rush at the end because first of all, this book is just so meaty, and it's really hard to kind of, narrow it down to just whatever I said in the last 15 minutes. Anyway, I hope this was helpful for you guys.